Good evening. How the devil are you? Oh, gosh, it's not so hot, is it? So good evening. I'm a little bit even loud for myself here, so I'm going to find a way of turning myself down. Good evening. How the devil are you? There we go. Right. Okay. So it's TERF Talk Tuesdays. I thought I was clever and I put it in the description, but I haven't. Oh, I can see a bit of hair. Let me do that. Hi, good evening. So the lines are already open. I shall furnish you with that information. This is the availability. You ring up, you get through, you get on. YouTube is always a little bit slow. Let me just assure you of that. I can't help that, I'm afraid. It's just the way it is. I'm going to edit the video for you here. Band United, this is why I love you so very much, because she always does something amazing for me. I'm still already in the chat, so I'm now going to put it in the description. There we go. So if you want to call me, that's the deal. So what's happened this week? What do we know that's happened this week? Pig in loads, that's what's happened this week. We have had, I don't know why it's doing that. We have had somebody else taking, I think it's someone called Cassie Boardman. She is going to take her workplace to court. I mean, how much more do these people need? HR departments really should be absolutely on this. If my role had been created, and the majority of my role had been created so that I could make up some other weird things for everybody and make everybody afraid at work and create that sort of rubbish in order to keep my job, I'd be now doing the flip side. I'd be saying, hey, I deserve a pay rise, because now what we've got to do is we've got to rewrite all these policies that don't center men. How difficult is that? But this would be a way for me to keep my job. I would become an expert on anti-woke type policies. I would make sure that my job was actually valuable on the basis that it was needed, so I could unravel so much of this rubbish in the department. So the Band United, thank you so very much, and good evening, Rebecca. Also, thank you to you. If you were the wonderful woman that messaged me to say that you would also moderate during live streams, then do let me know. Good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. I probably picked up a little more quickly than you imagined. You can say who you are, you don't have to, but good evening. What is your comment?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I'm not going to say my name because I'm quite a bit anxious with all of this, but I'm obviously not a woman, as you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually 16-year-old, wanted to speak to my generation, particularly a bit fellow like LGBT, actually LGBT teens out there who are also getting our support systems taken over by TQ+, which seems to just be a lot of straight people trying to be edgy.
Right. And how long do you think this has been going on, and why do you think LGB was so happy to give up the T? Do you think, like, right from the off, it wasn't necessarily a load of heterosexual AGPs, was it?
Mm-hmm. No, it's well, obviously, it started out as LGB, and then the TQ+ comes in, and it's just a bit much, and I don't know how the LGB side managed to put up with it.
What's the impact on you then? Can I ask your age? Is that a question?
I'm 16 years old.
You're 16.
Yeah.
God. Okay. And I thought when you said my generation, I thought initially you meant you were a lot older. So I do apologize for an irrelevant question. Okay. So what is what do I want to ask a 16-year-old? Because I do have a nearly 16-year-old in my house.
Yeah.
Do you find it almost impossible even to have a question about this at school? Like, say, for example, in your group of friends, say you wanted to say, even raise a question. Is that something that you're able to do?
Well, I wouldn't say entirely. It's just like it's a bit hard to say it at school because I've just left school, right? And my school seemed to be very woke and it was all a bit cringy. And, I actually, it came up when, there was all this kind of talk about trans, and then it got to the point where I actually ended up in a fight at school over calling someone fat because they were being homophobic to me because I'm bisexual myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing what they would call fat shaming, and they laid their hands on me. So I basically hit them, and a lot of people were disagreeing with my actions. And I've noticed that my school had then started doing a lot of this kind of woke stuff, which really I didn't like, and I couldn't really speak up about it. So that was kind of the problem.
Yeah. And did you have an LGBT plus Q, etc. club at school, or had your school not quite gone that far?
They done like a LGBT club that I could go to quite often. I did that, and I think what the problem is my generation are a bit scared to speak up in case we get bullied or pushed out. And
well, look, I'm going to have to say, as a parent, obviously I wouldn't advocate violence or getting into fights. And if you were one of my kids, I would probably advise you not to. But then also, as a parent, if my child had been completely taunted repeatedly in the school, it didn't act very much, then I can't say that I wouldn't tell my child to lay a hand on somebody else, because I think sometimes that is a final action.
Yeah.
And how, moving forward then, what's next for you? Are you going to college? Are you going to sixth form? Do you think it's going to be easier? Do you feel any change?
I mean, I feel, because I'm going to college, and I'm doing like performing arts there, which basically, what I've been told is that, if you step into all this kind of cancel culture and try and tell people that they're wrong, it doesn't look good, and
well, performing arts is I mean, if you really do want to jump straight into the fire, I guess performing arts is one of those places where you're going to be faced with this repeatedly. So I wish you all the luck in the world, and thank you very much for calling. And look, there's always, the truth will out. Eventually it won't be so cool to be something else. It will be kind of well respected to continue to call yourself bisexual. It will become a thing again. In fact, at the moment, you are the rebel. So the coolest of the cool. But thank you very much for calling, and all the very best of luck with your next few years. Cheers.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Oh, I thought he sounded so grown up. I thought he was talking, when he said generation, I thought he was talking about sort of being older, being like, when he said 16, I was thinking he doesn't sound 60. But anyway, it is going to be tough. Oh, well, good evening. You are calling from a very, very, very far away. You don't have to say who you are. You are more than welcome to. Good evening. Can I ask where you are?
I'm in Tasmania, and I'm Lola Moss.
Oh, hello. How lovely to hear your voice, Lola. How the devil are you? What would you like to say?
I would like to tell you that recently I had a family party at my place where my entire family got together for the first time since COVID. My heart's racing. It's 5 a.m. here, and I'm not even sure I can speak.
You're doing very well.
I left all my adult human female paraphernalia around the house. Still, I wasn't going to take it down just because I had family coming over. And my gay nephew actually pointed to the postcard I had on the fridge and said, you know, if that was up at my work, you would be in big trouble for that. I said, how come? And he said, well, I've been called a transphobe, a bigot, a genital fetish, everything, because he's a gay man that does not want transgender people in his dating pool.
Yeah. Wow.
And my whole family then got into the discussion. None of us knew this was going on. And we all got into a discussion about it, and it turns out he's going to put him for a transfer now because he feels so harassed over it.
It's just
but now I've discovered my entire family are now TERF.
Yay!
Which is fabulous.
Oh my
now,
goodness.
My nephew had never heard of Standing for Women or Posie Parker or the word TERF, but he recognised that black and white definition postcard. And he knew what it meant. So the Be the Billboard campaign is very successful. Even if people don't know who it's about, they know, they recognise that brand.
Oh, Lola, that's such a lovely thing to hear. How old is your nephew?
27.
God, I mean, look, did we know? I mean, I have probably wrong assumptions about Tasmania, New Zealand, Australia, everywhere. I sort of thought that you were all, you know, a bit sort of speak as you find, truth tellers, right? Bit blunt. How is this?
Well, we
happened?
are generally, but this whole concept of transgenderism has silenced us. This cult has silenced normal, rational conversation.
It's so bizarre. What do you think for like your average Tasmanian? How do you think they've been persuaded? What is it?
Well, we've only got two main newspapers, and they're both woke and they're both pro-trans. So, and most people around here, they're older generation, and they only read the newspapers.
Okay.
And I don't watch television, so I don't know what they're getting from that, but I'm assuming it's similar. So it's all yay pro-trans, and the only people who are speaking out on the other side are Senator Claire Chandler, who's my local senator here in Tasmania, and one or two other politicians. But that's about it. And they're always made out to be terrible bigots and hateful people.
It's textbook, isn't
so
it? It's the same everywhere.
And yet, if you ask your average person on the street about women's sport or about men and women's prisons, they'd be on our side. They would be TERFs. They just don't know it.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy
they've been given their opinion, and that's what they've got. Now,
Lola, is it you that keeps asking me for different shaped T-shirts?
It is, but I've ordered one now. It was the necklines that some of the ladies are having trouble with. They want a lower neckline. I want
a T-shirt that covers my bicep, right? And a round neck is not so great for me. A V-neck is great. I know some women like a really deep V or like a wide boat neck thing. I am searching, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to set up something to go from Australia to Australians rather than the long wait, the huge shipping fee, because I feel Australia, Tasmania, New Zealand, and I'm saying all three because I don't really know if Tasmania likes to be included in Australia because my job
we are a land apart.
Right, good. Okay, good. I'm glad I was erring on the side of caution. But we are going to ensure that you forthright women down under actually get the chance to be the billboard a little more. And I keep talking to my husband. It's summertime, isn't it? In December. So I keep trying to persuade him that even I might have to take a lot of drugs and alcohol, but I will get on a plane and come to the other side of the world very soon. But it's so lovely. I can't tell you how lovely it is to speak to you. And
it's lovely to speak to you.
Thank you so much for ringing. And really lovely to talk to you.
Okay, then. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye, my love. Bye. Ah, you will recognize Lola from the chat. Oh, now, this is what, look, this is what we're thinking at the moment. We want everybody to have the chance to be the billboard. As you just heard Lola then, it's not, here we go. Oh, did I miss that person? Call again. There we go. Okay. Good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. You don't have to say who you are. You can if you want. Good evening. What would you like to say? Hello. Let's try again. Hello, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. Can you hear me? Hello, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. This is the third time I've picked up this call. Can you hear me, caller? How weird. Hello, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday.
Oh, hello. How's it going?
Very good. How are you? You can say who you are. You don't have to. It's entirely up to you. This
Listen,
beeping
I'm
is
only
going to go.
because I do have to tell you, it ain't, the suffragette movement, they finished a while ago, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that women have rights. They have as many rights they possibly can get, to be honest with you. So I don't understand what your whole job is. I've seen you on talk radio so many times, that's why I'm phoning. I don't understand the whole women's got no rights, no equal pay, we don't know what we're talking about.
I've said that. I've said about equal pay, have I?
Not today.
I've said about equal pay, have I? You've heard me
No,
talk.
not today, no.
You've heard me talk about the gender.
Let's not focus on one thing. Let's focus on the whole broad.
Go on then. Give me a list of things that you disagree with that I've said. We'll go through them one by one. Yeah.
That's not a conversation, is it? I would like you to explain to me why you think the suffragette movement is not done a good job, and that you feel like you need to take charge and give women as many rights as possibly they can.
No, equal rights.
Yeah, you have equal rights.
Okay. Well, I have different rights to you, don't I? Because I produce 4 babies from my body, and so I would need different rights to you when it comes to maybe workers' rights. I might need some time off so that my body can heal. I mean, do you need maternity pay?
I'm not saying I do.
Okay.
There's a lot of women, a lot of women do get that.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. That's not something that doesn't happen. That happens.
It does happen. You're absolutely
right. What else
right.
are you fighting for?
To
that
stop.
Actually matters.
Okay, that actually matters. Do you have a mum?
Of course I have a mum.
Okay. Yeah. Would you like your mother to, when she's if she was, say, really unwell and she needed to go into hospital, would you like to have her in a female only ward, or would you mind if there was a bloke next to her in a bed?
I knew we was going to get this. The thing is, right, most men in a hospital isn't going to go and turn around and sexually abuse them.
What if one does?
That doesn't happen.
What if one does?
What if one does? Well, what if someone from Islam comes to this country and blows us up? Do we just stop all Islamic people being in your hospital? Is that
no? But what we do is we do further screening, don't we, at airports? Because some people did blow up airplanes, right?
There's nothing to do with a man sitting next to a woman.
Do you think a woman has the right, or do you think a man has the right to go in a male only changing room and not have a naked woman in it, not have women in it? Do you have that right?
About this whole point, yes, I do agree with that, and I also agree women should as well. But this whole point, it's very rare you have a man walk into a woman's changing room. I mean,
it's not that rare.
Every time I've seen you argue, you've argued about the same woman called Karen White. You haven't got any other argument other than Karen White, as far as I know.
Karen White is the most famous. Karen White is the most famous. He is not the only one. You know, in American prisons, they give out condoms in women's prisons. Why would they do that?
Conjugal visits. They also have conjugal visits. We don't in this country.
But you know that there are numerous male rapists in women's prisons right across America, and there are some in the UK.
Sorry, could you repeat yourself?
Pardon?
I didn't hear that. Could you repeat?
So in the United Kingdom right now, until
Mhm.
Dominic Raab just made an announcement, there are male sex offenders serving time in women's prisons.
Right. And
Is that not worth fighting for, to get those women in a prison that's female only?
it all depends on if that male, because you call anything a man. Let's be honest. If it had a penis, you'll call it a man. So
Yes. Don't you?
let's try and get into details.
Don't you? Why don't you?
No, if a man has his penis taken off, right,
Yeah.
taken off, he's no threat to women. No threat at all.
No, that's
No
not
threat to
true.
women, right? 98% of transgenders, they want to not walk into women's spaces, but they want to not be seen.
How
as
many of them
threat
have a
by women.
penis? How many men who call themselves women have penises?
I don't know many men that call themselves women. I have to be honest with you. And again, that
But you
also
just use that statistic. So you just said 98%. I'm assuming you plucked that out of some sort of thin air. So when it comes to the number of men,
it's not just men
when
that's
it comes
transgender.
to
it's also women
when
that
it
want
comes to the number of men who call themselves women, how many of them do you think have a penis?
I think quite a few, and the only reason I feel that way is because to have a transgender operation, you have to be dressed as a woman. Say living as a woman, you have to be dressed as a woman for a good couple of years, about 5 or 6.
I know quite a few women who wear flat shoes, jeans, and so what do these men have to wear to dress as a woman?
They just have to dress what they feel comfortable with, feminine clothes. What you would walk into Tesco's, you wouldn't go down the men aisle, would you? There's a male aisle and there's a female aisle. Let's not pretend that doesn't exist. You would walk down the female aisle, you would choose what clothes you want to wear down your aisle, and you would go and pay for it.
So what is a woman?
We know what men and women clothes is. That's not.
So what is a woman?
Well, I mean, as I said, so a woman is a biological. A biological woman is a woman born with a vagina. Now, them same biological women, which most of them are. I don't know if you've been on TikTok. You talk about it quite a bit. I don't know if you've been on YouTube. You talk about that quite a bit. I mean, so you'll see if you type in. I could link you as many as you like as well. If you type in gender talk or anything to do with gender on YouTube, you'll find young girls and women all pretending to be men, as you say.
Yeah.
All doing what they want to do, and most of them are women. Most of them are girls.
Yeah.
So
and those women pose what threat to you? A woman that calls herself a man, what threat does she pose to men? Now, I think she's probably quite disturbed, but what threat does she pose to men in men's spaces?
Actually, I feel some women, a lot of women, to be honest, can pose quite a threat to men. I think a lot of men are quite some men are quite weak. Some men are quite subtle. Some men are. Now, you can laugh.
I am laughing because it's ridiculous. Come on, just tell me. Just tell me what threat a woman who loathes her body so much, maybe she's a bit narcissistic, maybe she's cut her breasts off, maybe she calls herself Kai. What threat does she pose to men in men's spaces?
She doesn't. But what threat does men pose with a transgender operation?
But you don't know how many they are. Let me tell you, it's about 95% of men that call themselves women keep their penis, and the majority of those are what we call autogynephiles, and they actually quite fancy women. And part of their fetish is the arousal of making women uncomfortable. So
I find that very odd when we've got a transgender list of 40 years waiting. Of people wanting to lose their penis but can't.
40
the NHS just can't keep up with it. You got 40.
You think we've got a 40-year?
Have you ever asked
It's
them?
Amazing.
40 years to wait in the NHS, darling.
40 years.
40 years to wait for an operation. What do you think about that? How is that
well, maybe they ought to work a little bit harder and save up.
£300,000, darling.
Don't call me darling. Don't call me darling. That would be quite rude, wouldn't it?
Sorry. No, it's not that rude. I mean,
it would be rude.
I come from London. We call people darling. That's what happens.
Okay, tell me what a woman is.
Another one.
Tell me what a man is and what a woman is. Biological woman is born with a vagina. So why should anybody apart from biological women use women's spaces? if they're for
I
women.
think if they've got an operation, no penis, I think they've got absolutely right to. They've got no fracture.
So they're not born with a vagina, but they've got a right to use a woman's space because they've inverted their penis.
Why should you have a right to be on your own and do what you want, and men can't have pubs, can't have clubs, can't do anything. If we stood up and said you can't do this as a woman,
you're mistaking me for somebody else. You can have your yeah, you are. Yes, you absolutely are. I've always said
because you was on James Wells saying you couldn't do that because let me quote you. A lot of the conversations that were being in there about money was away from women because they could use them spaces on themselves. That's your exact
right. Okay, that wasn't my exact word. Let me explain my sentiment for you very carefully. Right, way back, the reason some women fought to include themselves in some men's spaces is because in those particular spaces they were having conversations about that were powerful and influential, and women, by not being allowed in those spaces, had no access to that power and that conversation. Now, does that mean that a woman should be allowed in every single golf course? No, I don't think so. Does it mean that that if men have a men's night, or like in America, I don't even think Boy Scouts are allowed to just have boys in it. Do I think any of those things were right? Absolutely not. I think it's quite shameful. And I think part of that is why we are in the mess that we're in, because we stopped allowing anybody, any single sex spaces. And so I totally agree that men should have their own spaces. Of course they should. But why should women in a state of undress have to welcome a bloke just because he's inverted his penis? And what we're going to do, we're going to check every man's genital area before we let him in, just in case he has locked his genitals off.
Well, okay, give me the statistics of how many men raped a woman in women-only spaces last year.
How many men went in women's spaces? What?
Raped.
Okay.
Abused a woman in a woman's space.
Well, I don't know that specific statistic about a woman's space, but I do know that opportunistic predators will use every loophole to access the people that they want to attack. For example, when Cardiff opened their swimming pool, their Olympic swimming pool, in the first 17 months, there were 16 incidences of indecent exposure and voyeurism. That was because they had so-called gender neutral spaces. So that all their changing rooms were gender neutral, which then invited people who wanted to spy on women and some children. That invited them, that gave them a much greater opportunity to do that.
So just in case a woman is at threat,
just in case I'm in a car crash, I wear a seatbelt, just in case, and that's the law. So just in case, well, I mean, just in case a woman is at more risk when there are men in her spaces, and it's not just about rape, it's also about safety, privacy, dignity, and just having a single sex space. Now, I think women are entitled to that. You clearly don't. You seem to think that a woman isn't entitled to any privacy whatsoever.
No, I didn't say that. I just think you are sexist against men. To be honest with you. How? Because every single time I've seen you on GB News, and I mean, it's not the best reputable source. I mean, a biased news channel like that, but
I'll watch you on whatever channel you're on. Whenever you're on, just let me know and I'll watch you.
Mate, honestly, if people got me on, I would have people like you for dinner. Don't you worry about that. But,
sweetie, I don't think you could have me for breakfast or even a small lunch.
It seems like I am today. But listen, let's carry on with this.
Come on, I'm sexist because I'm going to give you another about 30 seconds, and I've got other people to answer. But I'm sexist because
no, that's fine. But I think you're sexist to men because every time I see you on Talk Radio, GB News, or anywhere that you are on, you have been berating, degrading men. Like
no, I don't.
No tomorrow.
I've been happily married for 25 years, and I've
calling men sexist, calling men rapists, calling men everything under the sun.
I call rapists rapists.
You people did some horrible crimes.
Right. I call rapists rapists. I say that women are more at risk. I say that men are more likely to rape than women are to rape. I say that men are pose a bigger threat to men than they pose to women, but actually women don't pose the same sort of threat to other women or to men. How is that sexist?
Completely. Because at the end of the day, you have soft women the way you have soft men. You have really, really horrible women.
I'm really sorry that some women make you feel threatened. And I hope whatever's happened to you, you know, you seek some counselling. But thank you very, very much for calling. Bye. Okay, good evening. Well, isn't that fun? I don't know who we thought I was. That was quite weird. Good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. This is Kellie-Jay. You can say who you are. You don't have to, but what would you like to say? I'm sorry.
Talking to you today.
I'm sorry. Good evening. Hi. Tell me who you are again.
This is Amy Souza, known
Amy
heretic on Twitter.
Souza. Hi. How are you? Well, how are you?
I am feeling very proud today of my team and what we stood up for in my town yesterday. Anyone who doesn't know, there was about 35 of us standing up for Julie Jaman, who is a dear friend of mine in my hometown of Port Townsend, Washington. And we we organized, I think very well, a press conference to speak out against the local YMCA, which banned her for objecting to a man in the YMCA pool locker room where she was naked and showering, heard a man's voice and responded by telling him to leave. He was observing little girls get undressed out of their bathing suits to use the bathroom. She stood up for herself. She stood up for those girls. And the town, the YMCA responded by banning her for life. And the town responded by coming up with a quote unquote transgender proclamation, which was part of the city council's agenda item yesterday. We were about 35 speakers at our press conference. They were there in the hundreds. They had over 300 people. Our guess is 400 or 500 maybe. They were unruly, pushing us until our backs were against the wall. We held arms and linked ourselves with our backs to them and tried to carry ourselves with as much integrity and poise as possible in the face of their constant onslaught and aggression. It was a little daunting. I'm not going to lie about that. They tried to steal our things. They rolled on the ground to try to infiltrate our circle and break our lines. Jeez. They grabbed us and touched us. It's really shocking. And it was honestly shocking the way the police in my town responded. I had been in good communication with the chief of police. I spoke to him again this afternoon to ask him his opinion about what he thought happened. And his answer did not give me a lot of, he seemed he had a lot of excuses for what happened is what he had.
Do you feel, right, that trans rights activism in the United States has very successfully framed women who don't think women have penises as kind of the aggressor, the people with the sort of the strength and the history of violence? It's like it's the ultimate in Darvo.
Yeah, absolutely. The town is doing a kind of ridiculous gymnastics in order to paint Julie Jaman, who is an 80-year-old woman, as the aggressor here. They are trying to paint her as the hateful one. They are trying to paint her as the harasser. But, ironically, they are making themselves look quite ridiculous because, the sort of gymnastics that you have to go through to make an 80-year-old woman into your villain, a woman who was naked and trying to protect herself. But I'm seeing that a lot. Our mayor, David Faber, has been calling me a transphobe and a TERF online. The way he has handled this is utterly disappointing. And again, he said on his Twitter page that he was concerned for himself, that a TERF was going to try to assassinate him. You know, so yeah. So he has really indulged and emboldened all of the TRAs who were there. I felt like they were very encouraged by the town in their behavior towards us, you know, and ironically, they were screaming at us, "No hate here," as they moved in, pushed us up against the wall. I think the visual story that is told by the live stream speaks for itself. You can see very clearly that men are trying to push us, attack us, steal our things, steal our flags, take our phones, all the while screaming at us, "No hate here."
Oh, it's so repulsive. It's so repulsive. Tell people where they can find that video, Amy.
Yes, you can find it on my YouTube channel. I hope someone, I closed my computer so I could hear well, but I hope someone will put my channel in the notes. It's at Known Heretic. That's my YouTube. That's where the live stream is. After I get off the call, I will put it in the chat as well. But thank you for listening. And Kellie-Jay, thank you for your inspiration. I have to say, there's a lot of courage that I take from you and your history of doing these events. And I've learned a lot from watching what you're doing. And, you know, this what my town is very confused about is this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of the story.
Well, I am about to loosely announce my I'm coming to spend quite a number of weeks in the US, and so
wonderful.
But well done to you. It looked horrendous, really frightening, and I think we have a different level of TRA. I think I'm about to meet some who may be on par when we go to Brighton, because that's like the wokest of woke, but Jesus Christ. Just, it's horrendous, Amy, and well done to you. Amazing. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Lovely. Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye. Wow. Geez. Isn't it horrendous? Let's see. Good evening. This is TERF Talk Tuesday. You can say who you are. You don't have to.
I phoned you about, 10 minutes ago?
You did.
I need to ask you one question, and I'll go.
All right.
You laughed at me when I said some men are afraid of women. Well, what about Johnny Depp? He was lied about. He was afraid of Amber Heard.
I don't want to comment on that because I think they're both dreadful people, to be honest.
You don't want to comment on it? Oh, that's funny.
Why?
Why not?
Why is that funny? Why are you so animated?
What a woman
Why does it?
A man. You don't want to comment on it?
I think they both abused each other, actually. That's what I think happened in that relationship.
Doesn't it?
Pardon?
Mm. It sounds right about a feminist. Thank you. Anyway, that's all.
I'm not a feminist, love, but thanks for calling.
Two colours. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, some of these men, they just get so angry. These terrible women. Good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. Adults are allowed to call, but clearly we welcome adolescents also. Good evening.
Hello to Kellie-Jay Keen. I just wanted to thank you. My name's David Harvey. I'm 36, I'm gay. And I just want to thank you for what you're doing. I watch your videos because it gives me a sense of sanity in this world. And I just want to say thank you for everything you're doing.
Well, thank you. You sound like you might be in the southeast. Does that mean you might come to Brighton?
I might do. You never know. My partner might want to come down. I'll look up a date. Have you got the dates for anything in Brighton?
It's the 18th, which is so it's going to be in Preston Park, but there's also pub in the park. So we're just talking to the park people to see the feasibility of it. But if it's too busy there, then we'll go somewhere else. But 18th of September is the date.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll be back from holiday by that point, so I might just be making my way down. I'm so grateful for you taking my call. I just wanted to say thank you.
Well, you are very welcome.
Sanity.
Oh, good. And there are organized like men's groups now. There are sort of gay men who are sort of coming together and talking about it and sort of finding sanity with each other. Do you belong to any of those?
Not yet. I live in Harlow, Essex, and there's not really much of anything of that going on, really.
Well, I think some of it's online. I know Menno. There's a chap who lives in Glastonbury. I know some of them are sort of beginning to talk. And you know, it's they're different ages. They've probably got different interests, but they have all been slightly burned by transgenderism or being called transphobic for, you know, because we all know that what a gay man loves more than anything is a woman's body.
Oh, of course. That's why I go around looking for them, as if I do. No, but I just honestly, I can't believe I got to talk to you today. I'm really grateful for you taking my call.
Wow, that's very kind.
I might be buying a few of your bits online, so I hope so. Anyway, I've got some friends who might enjoy them.
We got stuff in the men's shop, but thank you so much, David. I do hope to see you in Brighton.
I hope so. Take care and be safe and everything. You. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Hello, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. We welcome adolescents as well as fully grown people. You don't have to say who you are. You're more than welcome to. What's your comment?
Hi. Oh my God, I can't believe I've got through. Basically, me and my partner went to a Pride festival, and I'm gay, I'm lesbian, and yeah, we basically just felt like the odd ones out.
Why?
Because it was just full of trans people. And we were just so uncomfortable, and sorry, I'm really nervous.
That's all right, you're doing well.
Yeah, like it really, it's all of it, it's just really upsetting me. I just feel so isolated, and even in, you know, the LGBT community, LGB, you know, yeah, me and my partner love you.
Oh, thank you.
I can't believe I've got through.
Oh, well done for persevering. Do you think so? I've never gone to Pride, right? I must be one of the only straight women I know that don't go to Pride, because I think it's full of straight people these days anyway.
Yeah. It's like a party.
Yeah, and I sort of have always felt quite respectful that it really was a movement that got people their rights and got gays and lesbians their rights and stopped people beating people up in the streets. And I sort of now think that being gay, lesbian, bisexual is a bit run of the mill, and nobody really cares, because we've got way past that, and what a great movement Pride was. And now it just seems to be a bit of a men's sexual fetish display, to be fair.
Yeah, I see them everywhere as well. And like every time one walks past me in the street, me and my partner just look at each other and we're like, oh my God, like, you know, we don't.
Did you know how misogynist the whole LGB and now T? Did you know how sexist and misogynist it was, and how lesbians were all kind of always at the bottom of the pile?
Yeah, that's how it feels. It feels like we're not seen, we're not heard. Like you go on dating apps and it's just full of men in, like, you know, there's an app called Her.
Yeah.
And it's full of men. Like that, you know, and they call themselves, you know, Gemma or something, and it's like they don't even make an effort. They just look like men, and they're calling themselves women or lesbians. I'm like, how dare you? Like, how dare you? Like, try to date us, or, you know, call yourself a lesbian. It honestly, it sickens me, to be honest. It really scares me.
To be hopeful, I think we are really in the UK. I think America's next level, Canada's next level, other places are next level, but here I think this is as bad as it's going to get. And I'm not saying it isn't really bad, and I'm not saying that my
I feel
lesbian
like
friends.
it's getting worse.
Do you really?
It's getting worse, but yeah, definitely. Like I speak out a lot on my Instagram, which I'm not going to share because like I'm scared at the same time. Like, but I've had so many women, like women that I know. I'm like a very spiritual person, and I find that in the spiritual community, there's a lot of women that feel this way as well.
Right.
About men trying to infiltrate our spaces. And yeah, sorry, I've got so much to say, but
no, it's
I've
fine.
just gone blank.
Well,
But like,
look, write a list, and you can always call again. But I think so. I grew up near Glastonbury, where there's lots of people like that, and it seems to be two sorts of spiritual people: either spiritual people that sort of really have no are just a bit on the fringe, and then you've got real spiritual people who believe in sort of the two different courses of water under the tour, that one is male water and one is female water, and sort of the rivers meet and so on. And I think those people are very much rooted in what is female and what is male, and then you've got people into is it the goddess Gaia? And so it's weird, but even in some of those circles, there's still people that then talk about female energy as if that is not the same as female bodies.
Yeah. And I've had so many women messaging me, you know, that I've gone to spiritual groups with, and they have told me that they feel the exact same, but they're just scared to speak out. And it just makes me so sad, like that we're being silenced. And I'm someone that's, you know, I'm quite a reserved person, but when it comes to this, like I can't be anymore.
No.
Like I want to come to your protests and stuff, but I'm terrified. Like I'm terrified because of my job. I work for the DWP. So yeah, there's a trans person that I work with as well, and you know, we have to call them she, and every time I'm saying it, I'm lying, you know, but you do it, you do it because sometimes it's easier than the backlash.
What do you think would happen if you didn't do it now that, because mindful status ruling, right, still sort of mentioned gratuitous, and I know she won an incredible victory, but I still feel that there's this weird thing where it is supposed to be polite and professional courtesy if somebody says I'm a woman, to treat them as a woman, and a gender critical belief. I don't know how far that extends into actual working practices, and I really don't want to diminish or belittle or whatever the incredible victories of the women so far, but I just wonder if in the ruling it says gratuitous misgendering. Well, I don't believe I should ever have to call a man by anything remotely female at all.
No.
Do you think that would be an instant disciplinary?
I have no idea, if I'm totally honest. Like,
I mean, I'm not saying try it.
This person that I work with, they actually come to work dressed as a woman, wear like a horrendous wig, and I think they wear sort of like, I don't know, padding in the bra and stuff. And but I actually found out that they are a man outside of work, which makes no sense to me at all. I'm like, why?
What
and
a lovely
changed their name
package.
about 50 times. Yeah. And then an email goes around work saying, oh, we have to call them by this name now. And I'm like,
I mean, even from a money point of view, right? Every time someone's sending that email, that's them doing that's not them not doing a different part of the job. It's
But then it's the bathrooms as well. Like I was on a night out at a gig, and I seen a trans person in the bathroom, in the female bathroom, and then they just scooched past me and said, oh, sorry, because they were in my way. And I just couldn't go into the cubicle that they went into. I just felt so uncomfortable. I stood there in shock, because this is something that me and my partner talk about every single day without fail. we always listen to your TERF Talk Tuesdays and stuff, and you know, both of us are like
Well, I
too
think it's
scared
being
to call in a
gaslit.
lot of the time.
Well,
Pardon?
well done. I think it's being gaslit. I think that's what we are feeling really repulsed by. It's not just what the lie is.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we have to go along with it. You know, that
Yeah.
I don't particularly like fetishy men parading their fetish and making women uncomfortable. And I don't particularly like that at all, right? I don't feel I should have to like it. I don't feel that I shouldn't be able to say that I don't like it. However, there's a lot of things I don't like. And if a man wants to do that and he can be over there somewhere, that's fine. But it's the thing that not only are we supposed to accept it, but we kind of have to think that it's wonderful and stunning and brave and
we have
normal.
to praise it. And it's so wrong. Like, I don't want to be praised for coming out. Like, it is just who I am. It's never been a big deal. I've never been like a rainbow warrior, as my girlfriend calls them. Like, I've never been one of them. But we purely went to Pride. I'm not going to say where it is, but we went to Pride for just kind of to see it. Yeah. Because obviously we hear about it, we talk about it, but to see it there and then, you know, these young girls like walking past that are covered in the trans flag, and you know, you see the ones with their breasts cut off, and it just felt really sad. And there's people smiling, and you know, it's meant to be, you know, there's drag queens, and there was a you know, with the kids, what's it called, the story time, they had that as well. It's just so gross. Which is just a whole other topic that I just can't even get into, to be honest. But I just wanted to know your opinion on one person in particular. Do you know Blair White? Yeah, what's your opinion on them? Because me and my partner kind of agreed that we would refer to her as a female, but I can't really understand why. Like,
well, he kind of passes, and he's been doing it for a long time, doesn't he? But he doesn't pass when he stands next to a woman. And there aren't too many women that spend the whole time online, like head wobbly, pulling their hair, pushing their breasts forward, performing womanhood. However, look, fundamentally, he's not real. Fundamentally, he's kind of part of the problem, the passable thing that's okay. So do I think he's probably in many respects an all right person? Yes, I probably do. Do I think it's an internalized homophobia that led into probably a genuine, kind of as close as you can get to a genuine gender dysphoria? Yes. But I mean, his views on, I'm sure he's talked about using a surrogate, which instantly makes me just not be very happy. But I would, look, I'm really rigid. I do not use female pronouns or language for any man at all, without
that's
fail.
Something that I've noticed, and I think, like, I have compassion for these people, like a lot of the people, not necessarily the AGPs, but the people that are generally struggling with their gender. I really feel for them, and they're preying, like, it's this whole agenda is preying on young girls that are, you know, a lot of them are autistic. A lot of them don't fit in. A lot of them, like my partner's autistic, and she even said that when she was younger, she was questioning her gender because she had people telling her that she was, you know, tomboyish, so you should be a boy and all this, and that's where it starts. And like, I think I've heard you say about them, you know, it tends to come from groups, like it's groups of girls, they all encourage each other. And I just wonder, like, what the world's going to be like in 5-10 years time. We're just going to have so many people walking around like that are mutilated and confused, and
100%.
it just breaks my heart, because I'm not hateful at all. I just really feel like it's so important to protect our spaces, and the fact that the government are, you know, putting into effect all these laws and stuff about, you know, like, in what world do men rapists get put in female prisons? It's just,
in a
I
world that
think about
pretty
it on a
much
daily, you know.
hates women. That's what world.
Yeah.
A world that will,
Yeah.
I think in Amsterdam, they put up a pride poster of a young woman who not only had been medically harmed and had her breasts removed, but she had so many scars of self-harm, like everywhere. And I just thought, it's a new level of hatred and barbarism. But we are nearing the end of Turf Talk Tuesday. But thank you so much for calling. You today have taken a step further into the abyss of near winning. And you've spoken up, which definitely will mean other younger lesbians will also speak up every time, every single time. Never doubt the impact that your voice speaking up will have. But thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Take care.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good evening. Well, I'm supposed to, I've told myself I'm going to do shorter calls, and then people phone up and it's far too exciting. Good evening. You are through to Turf Talk Tuesday.
Good evening. It's Patrick from Canada again. Hello.
Hi, Patrick. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. We're having a conservative leadership changeover as you are, and I took out a membership, and they've been calling me and asking me all kinds of stuff, and they want to talk about how awful Trudeau is, which no argument on my side, but I say, look, I just want to know, what's a woman? And none of your candidates have answered that question or are willing to even hear the question. And her attitude changed like in a heartbeat, because she was laughing because she knew how Trudeau responded to these sorts of questions, and he just lets men in prison, sort of thing. And but they won't even. That's when she went all technical and said, "Oh no, we have nothing to do with policy and that sort of thing." And
wow.
It's just out of our hands. So it's like, oh God, I'm wondering if I should even.
Do you think it could
Pardon?
begin to? Do you think if a politician came out who couldn't be accused, well, it will be accused obviously of being far right, but do you think there is an appetite in Canada for somebody to bloody well say it?
Well, I don't know. I think most people still are unaware of the depth of how big this problem is. Like, so few people even know that men are housed in women's prisons. The Elizabeth Fry Society, for goodness sake, supports that concept. It's like astonishing.
So nuts. It's so nuts. Well, keep asking those questions. I am going to have to move on to the next call, because then it is going to be my last call of the evening. But it's so lovely to hear from you again, Patrick. Thank you so very much for calling.
Very good. Take care. Keep on the fight.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Liam H, thank you so much for your €49.99. Super effective. Thank you so very much. If you are looking to call, I am going to take one more call. Somebody keeps calling me from France, and I've missed them every single time. So I do feel quite terrible. Good evening. You are the last caller on Turf Talk Tuesday this evening. You don't have to say you are. You can. How the devil are you?
Hello. My name's Michelle. I don't care if I say my name. Nice to talk to you.
Hi, nice to talk to you, Michelle.
Hi, I'm just calling in because I admire what you do, but I just wanted to share one of my own experiences with a trans person in a toilet. It was several years ago in a different country. I live in France, but this was out in the Far East. And I was in a club, and I walked into a toilet, ladies' toilet, obviously. And there was a trans person, transvestite, as they were back then. And he had the stall door open, cock in hand, peeing, and looking at the ladies as they came in. And he was obviously getting a kick out of watching the women's reactions.
Nice.
And I mean, I was quite young now. I was only about 25, but yes, I didn't really know what to do, so I just kind of left it as a different country. So
That's so gross.
yeah, it was one. It's gross. So it does happen. So for all of the women that acquiesce to this nonsense, it does happen. It happened to me, and I'm sure it happens to many, many other women.
Yeah.
So
it's so weird.
You know
Don't
what I
you
mean?
think it's weird? Because I sort of think it's women's space, right? So even
Yeah.
if one woman is negatively impacted by a man in her space, why would that be okay with any other woman? Why?
It's not okay. But the problem I find is that there are so many women, and I find it's mostly women that
Yeah.
are putting up with this nonsense.
Well, that's because men understand men, right? So men know what men know how men speak when women aren't around.
I mean, I was last year as well. I was up in Paris, and I was with my daughter, and there was just by chance we went for a walk, and near where we were staying was Place de la République, and every Sunday they have protests there. And this one particular Sunday, there were like 5 different protests going on, and all we could see were like police vans and armed police, and you know, they were in riot gear. And who was there, and who was causing the most trouble? It was the trans. There was the trans right. They completely desiccated or defaced the monument, and in particular was written across it was like in French. It was "Kill a TERF, save a trans." And it's like, that is perfectly acceptable to do that. And I was looking at my daughter, she's 15. She was 13, 14 then. But she's kind of quite, she's kind of a little bit under their spell at the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't acquiesce to any of it. And I challenge her on everything. And she's been watching all the shit on TikTok. And it just drives me crazy. You can't stop the internet.
Well, my daughter's 15 and she'll say, oh my God, Mum, this happened on, I was looking at TikTok and this happened on TikTok, and it's, you know, girls are celebrated for having their breasts cut off, and there's a bizarre competitive element to who can kind of be the most tolerant and accepting and hold the line. And I mean, look, I've been doing this since 2015, so none of my kids have had a chance to be sucked into the cult, because we've been talking about it for 7 years, and how terrible it is. But so it's even in France. Well, I know it's in France, right? I know it's in countries with, I hate the word, gendered language, which you think it would be more difficult to do the linguistic tricks like they do in the UK, but I'm guessing they just take the language.
They do. I actually work in Switzerland, and Switzerland has now just fallen down the rabbit hole of self-identification. Unfortunately, that came in January this year. I haven't been affected by it yet. However, I see little signs creeping into the ether. You see it. It's like a slow, gradual, you know, like a mist covering. And you see it now with the recruitment. You see all genders. And my friend, she works for one of the big pharmaceutical companies in Switzerland. She was telling me when we were having dinner the other day, it was like, she walked into a meeting full of ladies and she said, "Hi, ladies." And then she got pulled aside by one of the women and said, "Please don't use gendered language." I mean, she's the same age as me. I'm 52. And I just look at these people and I want to shake them and scream at them.
I'll tell you what doesn't make, so in Switzerland, right, I believe this to be right. You might know better than me. I believe in Switzerland that you can't become Swiss unless the principality or whatever it is that you live in, unless you have a vote, even if you're like 3rd generation, you can't. So they've got these really archaic, old, traditional kind of hold on to the culture rules like that. But then, but then a man can just say he's a woman.
It is true, actually. I mean, I heard a story about a couple of years ago of a woman who's been married to a Swiss guy for like 40 years or something. She's got 3 kids. She's lived in Switzerland, and she objected to the cowbells every year, and she got rejected for a Swiss citizenship. So, but Yes, it is like that. It's
Well, that's why I don't get the judiciary in this country, you know. It's and I don't mean to use crusty old white men as some sort of pejorative, but it pretty much is made up of you know, a lot of old white men who've had elite educations, and then you think, what, and now you're pretending that you don't know what a woman is, and you've let this nonsense go into kind of fusty old kind of traditional. It just, the two things only make sense that both of those things just hate women. That's the only place I keep ending up.
And like I said, going back to my daughter, I think it's quite important to, I mean, she calls herself bisexual. She said she was bisexual since she was 8.
Right.
And I'm looking at her like, how? How would you know that? How? Oh, I like girls. Well, you might have thought a girl was pretty. I mean, that doesn't mean you fancy her at 8. I mean, okay, I've got nothing against it. I thoroughly support the LGB, but the T can do one.
All those straight men in dresses.
Yeah, she just keeps talking about the LGB, and I know she does it because I've checked her internet. And I do go on occasionally and I do check what she's doing, and they play around with the flags because it's cool. And I challenge her 100%. I drive her mad with it because I just say, and I ask her to justify why she's into trans rights. Well, they need human rights. What human rights don't they have? And I always question her. And I know something is sinking into that because I listened to her on a conversation with her friends the other day, and she started talking about MAPS, you know, the MAPS, the minor attracted people now that are trying to get in onto the act, basically paedophiles. And she started to discuss them, and she was saying, well, they're trying to get in on the umbrella. And I was like, well, something's sinking through. So I think you have to challenge it all the time. I just can't. I won't call anybody by their pronouns. I haven't had that up front yet, but I know it's coming. I started to see it on work emails now, particularly from the UK, actually, from regulatory bodies that I have to deal with my job. You know, he, him, starting to creep in on email signatures. It's just,
I know, I feel like if someone sends that, well, in fact, I had a recent experience where something happened. I can't really disclose what, but something happened, and this person was weirdly, just weird to me. And then when I wrote and sort of made a complaint, just said, I don't really understand it. But the manager sent back with pronouns, he, him in their bio. And I think his name was David. And I just wrote back and was like, you know, your name's David. I wasn't sat here thinking that you might be a woman. And even if I did, it doesn't really matter to the bloody letter that you've just written me. P.S. I had scrambled eggs for breakfast. It's so mad. Anyway, I'm going to have to love you and leave you, but thank you so much for calling this evening. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
No problem.
Cheers.
Okay, Andrew, thank you.
Bye. Okay, good. Right. Thank you to Cat Lady for your $5 American dollars. And we have a TERF group in Switzerland. Please get in touch. Twitter and Insta, WDI Switzerland. So there you go. There's someone for you to reach out to. Look, I've enjoyed this evening. I've got to get better at shortening, certainly teenage boys who call in, but I thought he was mildly entertaining. I do like it when men start talking to me about the gender pay gap. And I know I'm not going to be popular, but I actually think we live in a world in which money is really important to all of us. That's what we need to survive. And so, of course, there are going to be some discrepancies between a woman's income and a man's in certain jobs if you take time out. What doesn't make sense is if those women aren't promoted. But look, has the gender pay gap been disproven? I think to some degree it has. And I think we value the discrepancy comes when we devalue the jobs that women do that are caring jobs and caring roles. And we say that an equally skilled role that maybe is majority men do it. But look, I am a terrible human, and I'm not convinced by the gender pay gap. So sorry about that. And I'm really sorry to that adolescent boy who probably thinks that all women over the age of 45 look the same. And I think he had me confused with someone else. I think he was a bit ageist. Anyway, it's been lovely to talk to you. Look, this has been Tough Talk Tuesday. Everybody is always welcome to call. I don't care what your opinions are. I just like to listen to them. To those of you who are fighting within your own community, whether you're a young lesbian couple or gay couple, look, I promise you this war is not one that we will lose. It absolutely isn't. Let me tell you the truth. It always comes out. That's what happens. You can force a population into pretending that they believe something, but you can't force them to actually believe it. You can force them to say that they believe it, but you can't force them to actually believe it. You can convince the most powerful people in this country to say that women have penises, but you can't force them to actually believe it. And you can't force the people that are listening to them say it, believe it either, because that is not how it works. In North Korea, even in North Korea, where people are told that the messages are pumped out through speakers, and their television is controlled, and their thoughts are controlled, and every single minutiae of everything they ever do or think is controlled, you still have people fighting for freedom because they understand that freedom really is the truth, and the things that they're being told is not true. And they don't even have access to information. So please, 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 do not think this war is over and that we have lost, because I promise you we have not. If you can hold your thoughts in your own head, even when the world around you is shouting something else you know not to be true, then I promise we will win. If you can get off your beautiful posteriors and come to one of the Standing for Women meetings and stand beside a perfect stranger without fear of saying the things that you know to be true, then I promise we will win. If you can have courage and you can just speak the truth to somebody that you've never said it to before, then I promise we will win. Taking courage and phoning this evening, when you really did feel anxious about phoning and you made that step, I promise not only will you be more convinced of victory, but somebody else will be also convinced that we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? It's simple. Because I never lose